So once again, we appreciate you all being here. Please consider the super chat. And again, comments and questions are welcome. Well, we're going to dive right into the analysis and set up the San Jose State game. We've got another Matt Weiner, joining us from the Spear at San Jose State. Matt, we appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we can start in this fashion. Brennan was able to get through a successful season last year, get his team to a bowl game. It was a rough start for him. Lost 22 of his first 25 games. Has really had to take one of the worst FBS programs and build it from the ground up. Now entering his 7th season. Just your evaluation of what has been successful for him and how he's been able to build this program.
Yeah, I think it's amazing the way he's done it. Is just that classic roundup approach. And I'll be doing a story on this pretty shortly, but like a lot of this was not through cliche culture building. A lot of it was through just connection with the team and building connections in between players. And so I'll have a story on that coming out with the Spear later this week that really dives into that. But my evaluation is, look, he took something that was historically just not great, you could say it flat out, bad, and now he's on the precipice of, get this, becoming the first coach in SJSU history to reach 3 bowl games.
Matt, we can just go back and forth if you'd like, so go right into it.
Yeah, so, I've done a little bit of reading. I won't say I've done an exhaustive amount of reading. I've had to cover realignment as well as USC. But in what I've read about San Jose State, it seems as though one of the question marks is the offensive line. And if you agree with that, it sets up a fascinating situation on Saturday, because if there's a position group for USC, which is a question mark, it's the defensive line. So we could have question mark versus question mark when we have the San Jose State O-line against the USC D-line. Size up that matchup, and do you think that thesis that the offensive line is really that's kind of like the hinge point for San Jose State this season, if you think that's actually the case?
Right. So I was asked in the mailbag column, like, who do I expect to have the biggest jump from, or expect to see the biggest improvement? Well, it's the offensive line, because they were not good last year, just straight up. They allowed a ton of sacks. SJSU had a ton of trouble running the ball. In that bowl game, they had multiple 4th and short stops. One of them was like on the 3-yard line or on the 3rd and goal. And that definitely put them back, and is a reason why they lost to Eastern Michigan. But you come into this year where you have 3 out of the 5 guys coming back: Jaime Navarro, Anthony Pardue, and then Fernando Carmona Jr. And there's a lot of experience between those guys. So the hope is that, look, you had another offseason. You have tons of film to watch and tons of things to learn from. You pretty much have the same offensive line coach, same offensive coordinator, same running backs coach. It is your time to build.
Matt.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to move straight from that offensive line. And as you mentioned, I'm looking at the rushing numbers at 3.3 yards per carry, kind of underlines what you're talking about. That's a horrendous number at any level of football, but especially in college football, that there was a lot put on the shoulders of quarterback Chevan Cordeiro last season. 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's got a ton of experience. It's been a long time, from a college perspective, again, since he first won the job. Just talk about what he brings to the table and how he threatens the USC defense.
Yeah, what he comes to the table with is experience. So right now he has 68 career passing touchdowns. He's 26 away from tying the Mountain West record. Now, part of that is because he goes way back to USC. He's in his final year of eligibility. So he at least has the wherewithal and just understanding of how to be in a difficult situation. So that's what I do like about Chevan, is that he knows what he's dealing with. Obviously, it's not his first rodeo. But the thing that I'm curious to see is how he adapts to a bunch of his to his biggest wide receiver from last year and a couple other ones not being there anymore. So that's kind of the biggest question mark USC fans should be looking at. Great quarterback, but he has a lot of unproven talent at wide receiver.
So, Matt, one of the things I wanted to follow up on when we look at the San Jose State offense, in particular the offensive line, okay, there's continuity, all right, relative to last season. You have personnel, players, and coaches coming back. How much of an internal debate or discussion was there in the offseason with Brennan about retaining his coaches? Because, sometimes if you retain mediocrity, it's not good to be bringing personnel back. It would be better to have a lot of turnover. USC fans can relate because he wanted to clean out what Clay Helton left behind. Lincoln Riley wanted to bring in something dramatically new, and he did, and it worked. So what's the balance in terms of, well, it's good that we have personnel coming back, but maybe more changes were in order in the offseason. What's been the debate within the San Jose State football community on that point?
Yeah, I mean, I would say as far as from my end, I haven't done much reporting into kind of some of those specific retainment questions and just possibilities, everything like that. I really just flat out don't have information on that as far as that goes. But I mean, I am curious to see if, let's say, you have just a stinker of a season, 3-9, what happens to that? And so there's always things like that. But yeah, so I don't have any information on my end about those conversations.
What's your sense of the situation, though, just as an analyst, as someone who followed this program? And, I caught some San Jose State football after USC games ended, and I know that San Jose State was in some real scraps, some real dogfights with teams that, frankly, should expect to beat handily. Had some close games against teams from the lower end of the Mountain West. So there certainly does seem to be a feeling that, last year's group didn't, quite match standards and expectations. How much pressure is there to be noticeably better this season and push the program in the right direction?
Right. So I do think that there is pressure on a certain point, and this is kind of a new perspective to really start looking into that. I mean, it's so difficult to see with some of these things because, Coach Brennan has been with his offensive coordinator. They go back to Oregon State. So that was like many years ago. So there is continuity there and closeness there. So yeah, I mean, that's something I'm curious about seeing is we know how quickly this thing goes up and down, up and down. And so if the running game is great, then Brennan's a genius for bringing back the offensive line coach and running backs coach. So it's another thing to be curious about.
Matt, looking at the, you know what? Actually, I want to make one other note about the offense before we kind of move it around and we go back to Matt. A name that popped up in looking at the personnel was Jay Butterfield, because Pac-12 fans will be familiar with his recruitment to Oregon, because he was one of the most highly sought after quarterbacks in his class and one of the highest commits ever signed at Oregon. Now he obviously, with Bo Nix coming in, and before that Tyler Shook gaining the job, was not able to break through at Oregon. But is there any, obviously we're in game week and Cordeiro's maintained the job and he's got a ton of experience, but Jay Butterfield has obviously got to be considered the future at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this season is very clear. Chevan's the guy. There is no debate. That's just something that's not even like a topic of conversation. In the case, and I've said this from the beginning, in the case that Chevan goes down, Jay Butterfield has to step up and be that guy that SJSU brought him in to be. And the interesting point is, if Chevan struggles, to what point of Chevan struggles is Jay Butterfield going to come in? That's the point. But 2023, Chevan came in as the 2023 Mountain West preseason Offensive Player of the Year. This is his team, no consideration. And that's not anything to discredit Jay and what he's coming, but it's Chevan's time to shine.
So in this opening game against USC, we know that Chevan Cordeiro and Justin Lockhart, that's expected to be the main pitch and catch combination for the Spartans, and Lockhart's going to be Cordeiro's number one target. Now, obviously at USC, one of the really good things that Lincoln Riley has brought to the program in a very short period of time, lots of depth at wide receiver. There's so many options, so many people that Caleb Williams can spread the ball to. After Justin Lockhart, is there a clear number 2 option for San Jose State? What's that situation looking like? And how's that going to affect the way Cordeiro distributes the ball and finds other options when you know that defenses are going to send a lot of bodies Lockhart's way?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've covered extensively this offseason, and it's the story of Nick Nash transitioning from QB to wide receiver, and from spring ball to even fall camp when I was out last week. He is really shown out, and he is making legitimate contested catches. I mean, I saw him moss a guy last week, and so he's obviously putting work in, and there's a chemistry between the two. Like, both Chevan and Nick are roommates with each other. Did a story about how they play ping pong every day. Like, they're just having these crazy ping pong living room matches. And I think, honestly, this is my bold prediction, but I think that Nick Nash will have either more receiving yards or more catches than Lockhart.
For the season or against USC or both?
I'm gonna say I'm curious. I'll say for the season by the end, but that's another thing I'm looking forward to seeing. How does that ball get distributed?
All right. Another question about the matchup between the San Jose State offense and USC defense. And hey, if we're peppering you with questions about the San Jose State offense, because we at USC, we're not worried about our offense. We're worried about our defense. So trying to give our USC fans as much intel about the San Jose State offense as possible. How do you think Brennan and the staff are going to manage this game? Because there are a couple obvious schools of thought, a couple obvious avenues to consider. One is you try and hit the big play against a defense which was vulnerable to the big play, and you try to get a lead, and you try and make USC sweat, maybe panic, maybe a few weird things happen, and you get like that Appalachian State, Michigan vibe from 2007. Or the other route, and this is what Rice did in the season opener against USC 1 year ago, and that's run it up the gut, try to, get 7-8 minute drives, just keep Caleb Williams holding his helmet on the sideline. You try to shorten the game. And of course, this year in college football, we have the rule change with running clock on first down. So like if San Jose State can mash a little bit and get first downs, that's going to run even more time with the clock not stopping on first down. So of those two avenues, which one do you think the San Jose State staff is going to pursue, and which one do you think the staff should pursue?
I mean, it's so hard because I have nothing to – obviously I've seen lots of practice, but until you see a game, it's so hard to decipher what the coaches are thinking. So that's kind of hard on my end, but I think the smartest thing to do, honestly, play it safe. Play it safe. I mean, SJC was phenomenal when it came to turnovers last season. Like, their 9 turnovers were the best in the Mountain West and third in the nation. Chevan Cordeiro was amongst the best quarterbacks in the nation when it came to not throwing picks. So if I'm them, honestly, it's just let's play this safe. Hopefully this offensive line and the veteran presence of running back Kyrie Robinson, and then transfer portal running back they just added, Quali Conley from Utah Tech. Hopefully they could get something going in the run game, and that opens up just that one big play. But my biggest thing is play safe for the most part when it comes to just don't turn the ball over. I mean, I feel these situations all the time where things are going well the first quarter, boom, on a punt return, the guy drops it, the guy flubs it. Now USC is on the SJC's 15-yard line. That's 2 plays, and boom, the game's over.
Hey, Matt, while our Matt is going to focus on the offense versus the USC defense, I'm going to flip over and make the impossible situation and see what we can come up with there. So your defensive coordinator in Derek Odom, he plays this fill and flex defense, I see. Now, fill and flex, I don't know if that means they're going to have like 13 guys on the field to try to defend Caleb Williams. I don't know if that's maybe the strategy if they can kind of sneak a couple guys extra on the field. But just give us some insight into this San Jose State defense and how they may play it against Caleb Williams and company.
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing, and I keep using the word curious, but it's because I haven't seen all of them. Like, I just haven't seen them on the field. And so that's what this is. But the part that I think could be scary for SJSU, and USC fans will love to hear this. USC fans will be head over heels to hear this. Okay, SJSU is missing some of its most foundational pillars of the initial rebuild. Junior Fehoko was amongst was top 5 in sacks last year. He's playing for the Cowboys. His bookend on the other side, Cade Hall, he was amongst one of the best just defensive players in SJSU history. He's no longer there. Linebacker Kyle Harmon, well, he's gone. He was top 5 in tackles. And then cornerback Nehemiah Shelton, well, he's now an unsigned free agent with the Jets. So you're looking at a bunch of guys to fill in, and it's just how will these new guys come in to their place? So you have linebacker Brian Parham. This will be his 3rd season, was 2nd on the team in tackles last season. Nose guard Solane Toya, you hope that he could do something up front. But once again, like, there's talent where it's like, okay, it is really just kind of baptized by fire, where it's like, you guys got to be the guy. And so that's what USC fans would love to hear, because I'm sure Caleb Williams would rather face this than, of course, last year. And then, I see the comment, Chase Williams is obviously back, so that adds some veteran presence. That helps his fellow safety, Trey Jenkins. He's been with the team since 2018. So there is some, but I mean, it's something that can really be taken apart.
So in this season opener, which position group do you think needs to see the most where it is, that needs the most information in terms of, okay, USC provides this measuring stick. Let's see how good we are. Let's see where we come up short. Let's see where we really have to evolve going forward. And of course, you have Oregon State coming right after USC, that CBS special on Sunday, September 3rd in week 1. So what do you think this team needs to learn the most about its defensive personnel for the Oregon State game and for the rest of the season, so that this team can, get value? Like, no one's expecting San Jose State to win, of course, but like, what are the goals in terms of evolution and improvement that San Jose State's really looking for on the defensive side of the ball in this game?
That's a good question, because the evolution of it is so difficult, because you're expecting to take a step back. Like, that's what happens when you lose so many key players. What I want to see, honestly, is so much of that front 7. How do you guys, one, go through these 2 rough games and then also maintain throughout the rest of the season? I want to see how Solane Toya does. I want to see how guys like defensive lineman Jake Akiva does. I want to see how guys like Elijah Wood does, or how he will play. That is what I'm most looking forward to, and I think other fans should be as well, because this is a tough season. After these 2 difficult non-conference games, like we just mentioned, SJC will then play 5 of the 6 highest-ranked teams in the Mountain West preseason poll. If you don't have a front 7, well, then you could kiss bowl eligibility goodbye.
How much? Oh, go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, Matt.
How much do you think Brennan and the staff are going to rotate bodies in this game? How much do you think it's important to ride the starters, especially given that uncertain situation, losing NFL caliber talent? Do you think the staff's going to try and ride some guys a lot just to give them extended reps and see what they have in them? Or do you think precisely because you have a front-loaded schedule, it's going to be, the coaching staff's going to feel it's important, let's not overextend anyone, and let's make sure that lots of people get playing time so that we have options and we can really, reconsider the depth chart as we go along, and we can get more evaluations of more players. Which way do you think Brennan and the staff are going to go in this game against USC?
Yeah, I think for this initial one, there might be just a little bit of experimentation early on and seeing how things are. And that it's kind of like in MMA where the guys kind of feel each other out, see what moves are working, see what needs to be done, and then kind of just attack from there. Similar thing, but I mean, in my opinion, if it's a 1 to 2 possession game, and we're heading into the fourth quarter, play the hot hand. I'm sorry, this win can mean so much for this program. And look, I know that there's a high chance this SJC will not upset literally number 6 USC in the Coliseum. But if this does, that means a lot if we're talking money wise for donors and NIL and recruiting. So this one means so much if it can happen. So play the hot hand. Play the hot hand. This could mean a lot going forward, just beyond the one win.
Anything else, Matt?
No, I mean, I've pretty much touched on it, and just it's been great seeing Brennan's rebuild. And like I said, 7-5 might not seem great. Like USC goes 7-5 this year, there would be some people on Twitter calling for Riley's job. But if Brennan goes 7-5 this year, makes his third bowl appearance, which is literally which will be the first time in SJSU history a head coach does that. I mean, that's like borderline statue status for SJSU.
And you've had Dick Tomey and other really credentialed coaches come through that program over the years. So that would be a phenomenal achievement.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, Mike McIntyre, the latest to head an 11-win season in 2012 that set him up for the Colorado job.
Exactly.
Very good. Matt Weiner, you can catch him at the Spear, San Jose State. Matt, we want to make sure that everyone's aware of your work and where they can find you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right there at Matt Weiner 20. Keep up with my stories on thespearsjsu.com, Twitter at thespearsjsu. And real quick, I guess this last thing is that I'm a student beat reporter, and I think it's really important that we just kind of always be cognizant of student beat reporters and student journalism. Like, I'm not getting paid to do this. This is literally just a class, but I enjoy doing it. So I always like to make sure I throw that into some of these appearances.
Thank you so much, Matt. We appreciate you being here. Enjoy the game, and we hope for your side that it's competitive and that 1 to 2 score game into the fourth quarter, maybe that comes to fruition.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it, Matt.
Yeah.